It is time to get serious on the Rift and serious here on League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys because playoffs across all the regions are just around the corner. NA and EU, we've been there a little while, but the other regions are following suit. And with that, we are going to do our final global power rankings. We'll do one more when playoffs are over, but this is the last kind of regular season one, the top 10 teams on the planet right now. And finally, there's a lot of movement coming into this week, even at the top.
Yeah, hey, this is the time here in the global power rankings, some shifting. This is the time, though, to finally settle down here. This is where your power rankings will sit for the end of the spring split. The regular season part of it, we'll get back to these power rankings heading towards MSI, getting everyone all grouped up after playoffs. But this time, this is where the power stands globally heading into the respective regions playoffs.
And here in week 10, we've seen so many LPL teams jump in and out of the top 10 because there's just been no consistency there. But this week, it's someone else making their season debut from China. It is World Elite, who went on an absolute tear to close out the regular season. 9-2 to close things out, clinch the 5th seed in their playoff run. And with that, they do knock off TSM. And I want to say, TSM obviously had a great showing. They took down Echo Fox. Slight question marks, but not really. You knew they were going to win that series. But World Elite, because of how dominant they've been over the last couple weeks, and a clean, and I do mean clean, 2-0 against JD Gaming, has them in at number 9.
You're right. This is one of those situations here where Team Solo Mid is very close to hanging on to one of their spots here.
They're right there at 11.
But when you do look at World Elite and EDG, and especially over this past week or two, the performances that they've put up and as a whole here, capping off that spring split in the LPL with the run that they've had, making it into playoffs here, definitely. This is a team that deserves the credit. World Elite from pretty much the last half year or so has been absolutely a punching bag here in the LPL. This is a nice return to form here, getting into the global power rankings.
Yeah, they're looking like 2017 WE, which is, international, making some noise. Fnatic stays put at number 8, and you might be thinking they completely dismantled Vitality 3-0. They should be higher, but Vitality didn't do themselves any favors. There was not much resistance put the way of Fnatic.
No, and this is certainly a situation here where, yes, Fnatic showed some poise, and of course, Bwipo not dying to these unbelievably...
He should have
I don't even know what word to even use here with how to describe these ganks.
Yucky.
Yeah, yucky really does seem to be the only way to describe it here. Not good, but hey, Bwipo's staying alive. But you did see some nice things from Fnatic. You saw the use of the KL composition for them, picking up that pentakill. Things looking good. Fnatic, this was a good, strong performance for them against Vitality, but I don't think Vitality necessarily showed up to give their best performance on the day.
Yeah, there's really nothing to knock Fnatic for throughout this entire series. That's how Vitality played. They just weren't up against the best competition, and in comparison to the 7 other teams on top of them, they're just going against harder competition last week that they were seeing. So Fnatic still looking like a top-tier team. Maybe, I think we might be talking about them best in the West as the playoffs unfold here in EU and NA. But for right now, they are staying put there at number 8. And right above them, you saw Sandbox, who did go down one spot. They only played one set of games this weekend, or this week here in the final week of regular season, but they still look like a pretty good team. They're the 4 seed heading into playoffs, but they do go down a spot because TOP has been looking better of late.
Yeah, TOP gonna clinch that spot here into the number 6, just outside the top 5, where they had mostly been hanging out here for the rest of this spring split. But finishing here at number 6, this is a solid spot for Top Sports, and what you've seen from them still is that carry play from Knight in the mid lane really being that engine that drives Top Sports forward towards a lot of these victories here, and that to me is the most important role on the team.
Yeah, he had the most player of the game honors of all the players in the LPL with 12 this season. So yeah, he's definitely been the main, or one of the main carries on that squad. And as we roll into the top 5, it's the same as last week, the same teams, but definitely we're looking at a different order. It starts Kingzone, stays put even though they had that dominant win against Griffin 2-0, and IG in at number 4. I know people might be saying that's too low for them, but if you're looking back against that series against EDG, they barely won that series, and I do mean barely. It was interesting back and forth because EDG clobbered them game 1, IG came back and absolutely trounced them in game 2, and then game 3 they were 40 hit points away from losing that series.
Yeah, that one was a wild series there. You do have to give the credit, obviously, again, IG coming out on top here with that perseverance, getting through here when it mattered the most in the game 3 clutch moments. But you are right, it was a little bit closer than you would have liked to have seen for a team like IG, where you want to put them even further in these power rankings. And when you're talking about Kingzone only being down here at number 5, this is a squad that did pick up that big win against Griffin. But you're right, IG is above them, so where are you going to put them? Because how are you going to climb up ahead of this IG team that even if IG can't climb, you can't be putting Kingzone climbing up any further also.
And you know what? Maybe if Kingzone had a player that was of MVP caliber, maybe they'd be higher up.
Gross.
But unfortunately, they don't have an MVP on that roster. But the team in third does, and that's right. In third, Mark, I said it would never happen. I thought they were locked in. There's no way that Griffin could ever be knocked out of that top spot. But the 0-2 week wasn't enough. That was just one blip on the map. But here in week 10, there was some more disappointment from Griffin. They got destroyed by Kingzone 2-0. They had early leads in both of those matches, which is what was even more surprising to see them lose that match. And then they go up against Jin Air, and they 2-0 them, but in one of the most unconvincing 2-0s that I can remember.
This was a situation here with Griffin. You're right that 0-2 weekend that they did have just a few weeks ago here was the situation of, you know what, that's a couple of the legs of the stool that Griffin is standing on top of everyone else here. It's a couple of those legs knocked out here in this match that they had against Kingzone, where they ended up getting 2-0'd. That was absolutely kicking out those final legs. And as you say, this Jin Air match, where yes, they did win, but you did not see the Griffin performances, or let alone the caliber of performance that you have to be expecting from these players in this squad against a team like Jin Air. Just was not there to the level of it, and that's why I think that the form that you've been seeing from Griffin has to lead to them falling here in the power rankings, not finishing off this dominating spring split as our number 1 globally ranked team.
And you had some of the same concerns this week that we saw when they did go 0-2, but also some newer concerns with those early leads that I mentioned. They were sizable. They were a couple thousand gold up on Kingzone, definitely in game 1 and lesser so in game 2, but still had a lead. And usually, every single time you've seen Griffin with a big gold differential like that early on, the game's done. Game's done by 25 minutes, but they couldn't close it out against Kingzone.
I think this is going to be interesting here as Griffin heads into the playoffs. Of course, locking up that number 1 seed. They are directly right into the LCK finals.
See you in a month.
See you in a month, and this is going to be tough here because this is a month of having to scrim against yourself, working through getting here and trying to improve your play where you have to and come up with some new picks here. This is going to be interesting to see how Griffin adapts heading into those finals.
And obviously, with their struggles, they're going down 2 spots. SKT and Fun Plus both move up. SKT takes that top spot. They've been incredibly dominant since that series loss to Griffin. And Fun Plus, they went 0-2 a while ago after that 8-0 start, and it was like, all right, Cinderella run is over for these guys. Well, since then, they've gone 5-0 in best of series. They clinched that top seed in the LPL, and I think they are deserving of that number 2 spot heading into playoffs. Now, we might be talking differently after playoffs, but for right now, FPX in at number 2.
Got to be having them at number 2. This is a fun squad. Hey, Fun Plus
It's in the
Phoenix.
name.
You got to respect that name. You got to respect what they're doing on the Rift. And you got to respect my boy doing B. He ain't retiring. He's still here dominating fools in the LPL. And he is carrying Fun Plus Phoenix to this number 2 spot. But hey, man, number 2 ain't number 1. And that is only reserved for Senpai Faker and SKT.
And we'll see how they can do in that playoff run. Seeing Kingzone, SKT, and Griffin will be very exciting.